All right, our next reader is an alumnus. MaryAnn Miller holds an MED, and she also has an MFA from Rosemont College, and has completed a postgraduate semester with the poet David Wojan at Vermont College of Fine Arts. Miller's book of poems, Locus Mentis, has been published by PS Books. Yay. And she has been published in Philadelphia Poets Anthology, Certain Circuits, the International Review of African American Art, the Fox Chase Review, Rathala Review, Muse House Journal, and Kaleidoscope. Her poems and seragraphs were published in the September 2013 issue of Word Gathering. She was the resident book artist at the Experimental Printmaking Institute at Lafayette College for 12 years, where she taught workshops in book arts and letterpress. Her work is in the National Museum of Women in the Arts and in many corporate and private collections. She publishes hand-bound artist books pairing artists and poets through her press, luciapress.com, and she is currently teaching an ekphrastic poetry workshop at the Hunterton Art Museum in Clinton, New Jersey on Sundays until March 2nd. Please welcome MaryAnn Miller.
Oh, it's so good to be back at Rosemont and in this building and with all of you folks. It just lifts my heart right up. I've been reading the poetry of Thomas Tranströmer, who's a Swede, a poet, obviously, a psychologist, and a musician, a pianist. In his latest book, The Great Enigma, there's an essay, and it's about memories. And in it, he talks about being 60 years old and being far out on the comet's tail, where it's thinned out, and looking back at the comet's head, which is like the rest of his life. He had a stroke and lost the use of his right arm and his voice. So when he won the Nobel Prize for Literature, instead of giving an acceptance speech, he played some piano pieces written for the left hand. So I love that transcendence, the transcending his own ending. And he's written a lot about endings. And I think that these poems that I've written, probably in the last 2 months, are kind of about that, about transcending endings. So this one is after Thomas Tranströmer. Far out on the comet's tail. Far out on the comet's tail where light becomes memory, there is an unmooring, a possibility of meeting oneself in an exchange of energy. An expert on NPR shatters what warmth remains inside this winter with his theory of recollection. What we thought we were made of is singed, warped, and sifted. Our airship beats away with no destination, with a scalded destination, pulses with a bolero ostinato, else fades into a walk across the street. Out here near the end, we stand on wobbling particles to strengthen our cores. We see ahead unremembered infancies. Here there is no denial of earthly change. Toward the far end we cast lures into a Bethesda pool, gathering mercy and disgrace. Remember how your spine folded halfway through the journey. Remember how it felt when everything fell away, how proud you were buying rugs for your mother when your bones could take the weight. We get smaller as we speed up. Even as we tarry, we are smaller. We hope someone is watching for our return, but we don't care what they think. When my grandfather died, I touched his wooden fingers and knew he would no longer shake out an insistent rhythm. As we head toward the sun, it's not hard to imagine the knots in our knuckles, splintering, turning into wispy white birds. I need to drink some water now. Thank you. This one is called At the Terminus. My son, who's a musician, actually helped me finish this poem by sending me a video on YouTube about the view of the Earth from space. At the terminus, a wall becomes a garment. It weighs as much as a pound of feathers. Vitreous projections shooting color under the eyelids prove a deeper life inside. This journey will end in an explosion, weighing as much as a pound of iron. The cormorant's feathers are oily and weigh more than a pound of sparrows. The heron's neck becomes an S, signifying Spartina and yes. Wear the wall like a cloak a friend has wrapped around your shoulders. Feather it with shadows and light, as if it were a half-open door. Within the feathered wall, the walls are mirrors. Outside they are windows reflecting stunned waterbirds. At the terminus, a wall becomes skin. Layers of plaster and paint enclosing beating wings. Stillness settles where the wing meets the joint. Colors make soft whistles like breathing. There is another boundary with no terminus. A final skin made of dust, weighing nothing. I went through a stage once where I learned to play the frame drum, which is a tambourine. And I learned the history of the frame drum, and it actually started out as a sieve, as a grain sieve that women used to shake to let the grain go through. And that sound is actually part of this poem. Sieves. This is her secret, her last secret. She has prepared the final dish on the table. Her favorite tastes, what is left. Forced through a fine sieve, wet parts reassembled on the other side. She is a screen print. Sitting wrong causes the cells to slip. There is the sound of lithic chipping, the sound of husks, silent around what form remains. Remains of mother, sister, cousin, daughter, all forced through sieves hanging beside her. The sound of shaken grain falling through frame drums, struck for birth, for fertility, stolen by military, banned by church. Her church was a sieve she ran from. She became her own icon trimmed with gold leaf. She hung her marriage sieve alongside, her pushed-through parts. The slipped cells slid away to bloom like printer's ink on a wet page, an unsigned proof, an edition of one. This last poem is also after Thomas Tranströmer, but in addition after Pete Seeger, who you all know, just finished his life. Probably had as transcendent an ending as anybody could possibly have. There's one word in here I just want to say, a sospiri. Sospiri is a sigh, an Italian word for sigh. It's also a kind of musical form. Sloop. A spider embroiders a faint cross stitch on the scrim inside my eyes. A scroll, furled across the vertical, loosens, billows into a sail. It's the sloop I must catch before I leave the river, before the journey will take me. Hands free. I don't have to steer. I'll migrate with the sounds of ice cracking. leaving coal dust in a chilled furnace. The deck is warmed by new sun, whose light sees through us. A suspiri tells me I'm losing vision. Since I'm fed through my eyes, I will starve, unless I can see with my skin. The sloop sliding between the lips of the river is the place to see as the sun does, to listen to lapping water and banjo song. Thank you so much.